everyone, my name is Maddie and this is my Marvel comic breakdown. Welcome back to another episode of my comic breakdown series. If this is your first time, we're at episode 5 and I can't wait to dive into the next batch of comics with you. So what we do here is we explore the ins and outs of various comic plots, examine the intriguing characters, and really get into those storylines that keep us turning the pages. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future episodes. And those of you who have been following along, it's always fantastic to see you back. So let's get started, shall we? These next 3 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 5. They were all released in January of 1940. So the next comic is titled The Tyrant of Torpis. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Steve Dahlman. This is an action-packed narrative involving 2 brave operatives, an ingenious professor and a fearsome robot named Electro. Our story begins in the office of Professor Zog, who summons operatives 1 and 4 to inform them of a looming conflict in the Republic of Malovia, another word I can't pronounce. It appears Calf Belgry, a ruthless dictator of Torpis, has his eyes set on Malovia and is ready to turn the world upside down in his quest for power. Our operatives immediately hop on an airplane to Malovia, only to be confronted with heartbreaking scenes of devastation and innocence caught in the crossfire. The king of Malovia welcomes them to his palace, offering them a base to plot their counteroffensive. They set up their command center and, with Professor Zog's green light, summoned the formidable robot Electro to the scene. Just as the battle reaches its fever pitch, Electro arrives, displaying an impressive resistance to an array of weapons ranging from conventional firearms to high-powered cannons and deadly bombs. With Electro's power, the enemy forces are swiftly crushed and they scatter in retreat. Realizing the inevitability of his defeat, Calf Belgry takes his own life, effectively putting an end to his campaign of terror. Analyzing the story, we see themes of bravery, teamwork, and the balance of power. It portrays the destructive nature of dictatorship and the lengths heroes will go to preserve peace. The figure of Electro serves as a symbol of hope and resilience, highlighting that no force of evil is insurmountable when united against it. So, fun fact actually, Torpis and the Republic of Malovia are unique countries only present in the 616 universe. The next comic is titled King of the Counterfeiters. It was written by Stockbridge Winslow and illustrated by Erwin Hassan. This is another intriguing story featuring our cunning protagonist, the Ferret, his loyal Ferret sidekick, Nosy, and a whole lot of suspense. Our tale begins at a murder scene where the Ferret boldly challenges the local inspector, betting that he can crack the case faster if given the least significant item found on the victim. Amused, yet irritated by the Ferret's audacity, the inspector hands him a seemingly blank piece of paper. As the Ferret drives home, a sudden hail of gunfire sends his car spiraling into a ditch. Surviving the crash, he and his faithful pet Ferret Nosy escape unscathed. Back at home, the Ferret dips the slip of paper in water, revealing a hidden address and a list of prices. Arriving at the mysterious address, the Ferret is ambushed, knocked out, and subjected to water torture. His captors are sure that their boss will make the Ferret spill the beans. But with a whistle from the Ferret, Nosy burrows his way to rescue his master. Once free, the Ferret lays a trap for his captors, turning the tables on them. He patiently waits for the arrival of the boss, who turns out to be Ricky, a notorious counterfeiter. Just as Ricky tries to pull a fast one, Nosy leaps into action, giving the Ferret the perfect opportunity to land a knockout punch. In the end, the Ferret returns to the inspector, having solved the case and outsmarted the criminals, much to the inspector's chagrin yet gratitude. We witness the elements of cunning bravery and the deep bond between the Ferret and his pet Ferret Nosy. It highlights clever utilization of insignificant clues and the crucial role of timing in solving a crime. It also underscores the theme of unexpected heroism, reminding us that often the underdog, or under-ferret in this case, can make the most significant impact. The next comic is titled Adventures of Ka-Zar the Great, 5th episode. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Ben Thompson. Last time we left off at a tense moment where our jungle hero Ka-Zar confronted the deceitful Ed Kivlin. In a dramatic turn of events, Kivlin, rather than heeding Ka-Zar's warning, chooses to reveal his encounter with the White Jungle God to his greedy companion Paul DeCraft. Despite the ensuing chaos among the native workers, DeCraft maintains control with a harsh whip and a stern warning for Kivlin to keep quiet. Putting the pieces together, DeCraft recalls the boy boy of John Rand, a man he murdered years ago, suspecting that the White Jungle God could be Rand's son. His suspicions are confirmed upon discovering the well-maintained graves of Ka-Zar's parents. So he plots to capture Ka-Zar and dispel the Jungle God myths once and for all. While DeCraft schemes, our hero Ka-Zar infiltrates their camp, stealthily sabotaging their firearms. On DeCraft's return, he blames Kivlin for the loss of the weapons, confesses his intentions of killing him for the emeralds, and coldly shoots him. Ka-Zar, witnessing the event from afar, sees an opportunity in Kivlin's death to bring down DeCraft. After Kivlin's hasty burial, Ka-Zar swings through the trees, crossing paths with the treacherous N'Jaga. Though they hold off their fight for another day, Ka-Zar is warned by Zar of N'Jaga's cunning ways. But danger lurks closer as Ka-Zar gets captured by DeCraft on his return to the camp. Paraded in front of the natives as the subdued White Jungle God, Ka-Zar faces a horrifying trial by spear and knife, but he refuses to express his pain. Amid the savagery, No, a small monkey, proves to be an unexpected savior, releasing Ka-Zar from his bonds. Unleashing his wrath, Ka-Zar eliminates Arangi, the native leader, sending the rest fleeing into the jungle. In a climactic showdown, Ka-Zar faces his nemesis, DeCraft. Outwitting the final bullet, Ka-Zar subdues DeCraft and delivers the fatal blow, avenging his father's death, with a swift end to DeCraft. His victory reverberates through the jungle in the form of a mighty lion's roar. We see a tale of justice and retribution set against the raw backdrop of the jungle. Ka-Zar's strategic tactics, his unyielding spirit, and the unexpected allies he finds in the wild stand as testaments to his unique strengths as a character. His eventual triumph over DeCraft embodies the victory of the noble and pure over the cruel and greedy. These next 7 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 6. They were all released in February of 1940. The next comic is titled The Forest Fire Felons. It was written and illustrated by Carl Burgos. This is another explosive story featuring none other than our hero, the Human Torch, also known as Jim Hammond. We're introduced to 2 no-good crooks, Turgo and Patch, who've hatched a diabolical plan. They intend to steal the blueprint of an incendiary bomb tucked away in the safe of Midtown Bank. To pull this off, they start a massive forest fire, hoping it would distract the town's volunteer firefighters and grant them free reign to execute their heist. But the inferno doesn't just attract the firefighters, it also summons the Human Torch. Arriving at the blazing scene, the Torch rescues a trapped firefighter and, with his keen senses, realizes that the fire was set intentionally. Upon hearing about the bank heist, he springs into action once again, freeing the bank staff who were left to suffocate in the vault. Our hero then learns about the stolen bomb plans from the bank manager, and just as they start pondering the crook's whereabouts, the city is suddenly bombarded with explosives. Using his powers, the Torch intercepts a second round of bombing, tracing the origin point back to the nearby mountains. There, Turgo and Patch have built a cannon to launch their fiery assault. Thinking the cannon's electrodes would stop the Torch, the villains make their escape, but the electrodes have no effect on our flaming protagonist. When they crash their getaway car due to a well-placed flame by the Torch, they try to finish him off with a bulldozer. In a twist of poetic justice, the flames they use as a distraction now come to the Torch's rescue, sensing their master in peril. One of the crooks, Turgo, is burnt to death, while Patch tries to escape, only to meet a fiery end at the hands of the Torch. As our hero extinguishes the raging forest fire with a single shout, the story concludes on a bittersweet note. The dangerous bomb plans have been destroyed, which, according to the Torch, is for the best, considering the weapon's potential for devastation. And he shares a chuckle with the firefighters as they comment on the mysterious self-extinguishing fire. Here we see the classic Marvel themes of heroism, sacrifice, and poetic justice. The Human Torch's quick thinking and valor, coupled with the ironic turn of events for the villains, highlight the often unpredictable nature of the Marvel Universe. It's an action-packed, high-stakes adventure that reminds us why the Human Torch remains one of the most enduring characters in this comic book canon. The next comic is titled The Angel. It was written by Paul Gustafson and Ray Gill and illustrated by Paul Gustafson. This comic features an often overlooked crime fighter, the Angel, also known as Thomas Holloway. In this tale, while strolling past a cafe, Holloway notices a brawl brewing inside, putting a young woman against a tough guy named Rocco. Being the defender of justice he is, Holloway steps in, effortlessly subduing Rocco. Amid the chaos, he spots a familiar face, Gabby Harris, notorious jewel thief. After a tense exchange, Holloway leaves Harris with a cryptic note, hinting at his alter ego, the Angel. Now as the Angel, Holloway stakes out Harris's car, revealing the distressed damsel, Mary Edwards, inside. After learning that Mary's fake diamond necklace has attracted the thieves' attention, the Angel devises a plan to trap Harris and his gang. He instructs Mary to cooperate, hand over the fake necklace, and wait to be dropped off near her home. Hearing that Harris plans to sell the stolen necklace to a certain diamond dealer, Nichols, the Angel realizes the depth of Harris's scheme. So he takes out the thugs, with Mary's help, and asks her to tip off the police about the cafe's illegal activities, while he pays Nichols a visit. At Nichols' store, an all-out brawl ensues when Nichols recognizes the necklace is a fake. Amidst the chaos, Harris falls victim to Nichols' gun, allowing the Angel to subdue Nichols and haul both villains to the police station, effectively aiding in the successful bust of the cafe. In the aftermath, Holloway, back in his civilian guise, goes on a date with Mary. When some nearby crooks dismiss her necklace as a fake, Mary cheekily corrects them. The surprised Holloway quickly hustles her out of there, knowing that such an admission could attract more trouble. So what's the takeaway? It provides us with a fantastic look at the Angel's ingenuity, his ability to adapt to situations on the fly, and his commitment to justice. It also emphasizes the importance of outsmarting opponents, a classic theme often seen in early detective stories. The next comic is titled The Execution of the Submariner. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. This story is diving back into the underwater realm of Namor, the Submariner. So we last left off with Namor earning commendation for preventing a massive heist on the New York Treasury, proving his goodwill to the NYPD. But just when you think it's smooth sailing, our sea-dwelling friend finds himself facing another challenge. A vehicular mishap orchestrated by some scheming goons seeking to liberate their comrades from the police. But as you'd expect, our Submariner isn't having any of it, and it brings this escape plot to an abrupt halt. All's well that ends well, right? Well, not quite. Back at the police HQ, while Betty Dean and the commissioner acknowledge Namor's heroics, they still want him to stand trial for a previous allegation of murdering a police officer. Now, Namor isn't too thrilled about this, but Betty convinces him that justice will be served, and he will be vindicated. However, things take a grim turn when Namor is found guilty. The real kicker, his meals in prison have been laced with drugs to dampen his powers. Yeah, our seemingly invincible hero is sapped of his strength right before his sentence is to be carried out in the electric chair. But here's where it gets electrifying. When they throw the switch, instead of killing Namor, the jolt of electricity eradicates the drug's effects, reinvigorating him. Now, back at full strength, he breaks free, unleashing his fury on the guards and escaping the prison. Now, feeling betrayed, he confronts Betty about his drugged meals, but she pleads innocence. Regardless, Namor, feeling deceived, declares his renewed hostility toward the surface world and returns to the depths of Atlantis, promising more conflict in the future. It's a classic tale of misunderstanding and betrayal, with themes of vengeance and suspicion. Despite his initial efforts to aid humanity, Namor's experiences with deception and unfair justice lead him back to his initial antagonistic stance. It is a testament to the fact that actions, and in this case, accusations, have consequences. The next comic is titled The Border Dictator. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Al Anders. We find ourselves in El Pinos, near the Rio Grande, where ranch owner Pete Williams is trying to buy back his ranch, the Bar W, from a certain Sam Marvin. Despite a 60-day buyback clause, Marvin plays dirty and refuses to turn the ranch. Cue the entrance of our hero, the Masked Raider, who's caught wind of this injustice and decides to intervene. But as tempers flare, shots fly, and Marvin retreats, swearing vengeance. Now things take an interesting turn as the local sheriff attempts to arrest Williams and the Raider, based on Marvin's accusations and the suspicious pile of cash in Williams' possession. However, our masked hero won't go down so easily. With a swift escape on his trusty horse Thunder, he gallops off toward the Bar W. In the dead of night, the masked Raider uncovers a secret cavern on the ranch, where he eavesdrops on a gang plotting their cattle rustling operations. But before he can act, he's knocked out cold. Waking up tied to a lit stick of dynamite would have ended most men, but not our hero. He coolly defuses the bomb and races off to stop the rustlers. Cue the epic showdown in the Rio Grande, where our hero effectively rounds up Marvin's men. And just as Marvin thinks he's got the upper hand, Thunder, true to his name, thunders in to save the day. With the cattle safely returned and the crooks handed over to the sheriff, the whole plot unravels. Williams is cleared, his land returned, and the source of the suspicious cash is revealed. Just as he turns to express his gratitude to the Masked Raider, he finds our hero already riding off into the sunset. This story is a classic Western where the hero triumphs over deceit and corruption. The Masked Raider embodies the ideal Western protagonist, fearlessly stepping in to uphold justice. We see themes of betrayal, courage, and redemption woven into the narrative. The narrative structure and character dynamics remind us that even in the face of adversity, heroism shines through. The next comic is called The Voices Dope Racket. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Steve Dahlman. It's about Professor Zog and his trusty Electro robot on a cross-country crusade against drug peddlers. We kick things off at Electro headquarters, where Professor Zog has singled out America's drug menace as the next target. With a determined look in his eyes, he rallies his Electro agents, dispersing them to every corner of the nation. Their mission? To locate drug rackets and call in the big metal guns, Electro, the crime-bustling robot. Our spotlight falls on Electro Operative 7, Bill Dunn, who's been assigned the mean streets of San Francisco. Bill's intel from the narcotics squad points to a mysterious drug czar known as the Voice. No one's ever seen this guy. He communicates solely via a speaker hooked up to a remote transmitter. Sounds pretty sus. After observing a suspicious drug deal go down in Chinatown, Bill springs into action. He tracks down the dealer's hideout, assumes a clever disguise, and gets wind of a massive cocaine shipment coming into the city via the liner Arcadia. Using some top-notch detective skills, he deduces that the Voice's base must be close by. And sure enough, he finds a remote island with a radio transmitter. Bill knows it's time to bring out the big guy. Retreating to his hotel room, Bill sends out the Electro signal, summoning the hulking Electro robot to San Francisco. With Bill at the controls, Electro storms the island base, effectively putting an end to the Voice's operation and ensuring his arrest. But the battle isn't over yet. Electro's next stops include a cunningly hidden drug den in Chicago, followed by an airplane drug delivery interruption in Philadelphia. Electro's tireless efforts pay off big, earning Professor Zog a letter of congratulations directly from the President of the United States. This adventure of Electro presents an intriguing exploration of societal issues of the time, such as drug trafficking. It showcases how heroes, whether flesh and blood or steel and circuits, can serve as agents of change. The storyline also emphasizes the power of intelligence, strategy, and technology in combating crime, making it not only an exciting read, but also a thought-provoking one. The next comic is called Murder of a Cosmetics Queen. It was written by Stockbridge Winslow and illustrated by Erwin Hassan. It's about the shrewd ferret as he takes a perplexing case. The adventure begins with an urgent call from Lily Anders, a worker from cosmetics tycoon Cora Waterbury. Lily is concerned that Venario, a recently fired lab technician, may harbor revenge against Cora. Without wasting a moment, the ferret races to the Waterbury mansion. But the minute he and Lily reach the house, Kara's mute butler alerts them to danger. The plot thickens when they discover Cora's lifeless body, her hair eerily fallen out. Enter the temperamental Dr. Jelenko, who's not too pleased with the ferret's investigations. Things get murkier when Lily spots Venario peeking through a window, but before they can catch him, he vanishes. Just when you think things can't get any stranger, a man claiming to be Cora's estranged brother, Renee, makes an appearance. Suspicion rises as Renee, who hasn't visited the mansion in 25 years, is found inspecting the family's safe. The ferret notes that Renee looks surprisingly shabby for an heir of a cosmetics company. Spotting a clue, the ferret instructs Lily to stay at his hotel while he investigates further. Taking a sample from Cora's body, he spots another figure at the window, but once again, the mysterious figure escapes. The ferret, however, is not deterred. He examines the sample using a spectroscope at the hospital, revealing a lethal dose of thallium, a highly poisonous substance. In dramatic conclusion, the ferret summons Lily, Dr. Jelenko, and Renee, revealing his findings. But when the real Renee shows up, the truth is finally unmasked. Renee is revealed to be Ryan, Renee's assistant, and the true culprit behind Cora's murder and attempted theft. This story is an excellent example of a classic whodunit, filled with suspicious characters, unexpected turns, and a nail-biting conclusion. It's a testament to the clever storytelling and intricate plots that are a staple of detective comics. The ferret's attention to detail and scientific method, along with his ability to connect seemingly random pieces of evidence, truly make him a master detective. The next comic is titled Revenge for a Blind Man. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Ben Thompson. Our story kicks off with a gravely injured guide blindly stumbling through the jungle when he unexpectedly catches the eye of Ninjaga, the jaguar. But before this hungry cat can turn him into dinner, our hero, Ka-Zar, swoops in for the rescue. The guide is in disbelief. He thought Ka-Zar was just a local legend, a myth. But Ka-Zar is very real and now has a mission to fulfill. The guide was betrayed by a man named Fenton, an ivory poacher who left him to die when he refused to participate in the illegal hunt for elephant tusks, which none of you should participate in those activities. With his last breath, the guide entrusts Ka-Zar to halt Fenton's devastating plans. Summoning his loyal companions Zar the lion, Traja the elephant, and Nono the monkey, Ka-Zar and his team set out to track down Fenton and his hunting party. The vile Fenton is caught whipping his native guides into submission, forcing them to take part in his illicit activities. Ka-Zar doesn't let this injustice slide and disrupts the scene, throwing a rock at Fenton. Moving swiftly, Ka-Zar learns from one of the natives that they are being compelled to assist in the hunting. Believing the man, Ka-Zar instructs him to guide his fellow natives. As Fenton is led towards the elephants, Ka-Zar and Traja convince the majestic beasts to charge. Chaos ensues, the natives abandon Fenton. In his panicked attempt to escape, Fenton meets his end under the elephant's feet. A fitting end, it seems, for one who dared to exploit Ka-Zar's beloved land. This comic is a powerful narrative about respect for wildlife and the punishment that befalls those who exploit it. It highlights the bond between Ka-Zar and his animal companions, showing that unity and respect can conquer greed and cruelty. It serves as a great reminder that comics can deliver more than just action-packed sequences. They can teach us valuable lessons about preservation, respect, and justice. Wait there for a moment, I'm really hot, and so I need to go change because it's hot in here. Okay, I'm back. Let's continue. The next 7 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 7. They were all released in March of 1940. The next comic is titled The Human Torch. It was written and illustrated by Carl Burgos. Racing back into New York City, the Torch, also known as Jim Heyman, decides to help his pal Johnson by joining the New York police force. After months of training, our fiery hero now patrols the slums of the city in his human disguise. A local shady politician named Roglo is flagged to him as a potential problem. Roglo, with his assistant Red, recognizes the uncanny resemblance between the new cop and the Human Torch. Seeking to control him, Roglo invites Jim to his office, setting the stage for confrontation. Our hero, however, refuses to bow to Roglo's corruption. Upon attacking Jim, he flames on, revealing his true identity, and gives Roglo a stern warning. He's dealing with the Human Torch now, not just a beat cop. Returning to the precinct, Jim worries about the captain's reaction to his burnt uniform, but to his surprise, his reveal as the Human Torch is met with full support from both the police department and the mayor's office. In the meantime, Roglo, having noticed that Jim left his cop hat behind, hatches a devious trap. Roglo lures Jim to a specified location with the promise of retrieving his lost cap. Foreseeing the trap, Jim still proceeds, only to be met with a shower of water in an airtight bag that blocks his flaming abilities. Left with Red, Roglo retreats to complete his illicit plans. However, Red inadvertently punctures the bag while binding Jim in chains, enabling our hero to flame on and escape a sawing death. The chase is on as the torch follows Red to a building Roglo plans to incinerate for insurance money. A shocking betrayal sees Red fatally shot by Roglo for warning him about the torch's escape. An explosion of kerosene knocks the torch unconscious, and when he awakens, the building and its surrounding area is ablaze. Using his powers, he manages to pull the flames toward a nearby river, quelling the disaster. Chasing Roglo's fleeing car, the torch apprehends the crooks, and Roglo promises a full confession once in police custody. But there's no rest for the Human Torch as he's alerted to a new threat. The Submariner is attacking the city. This chapter reminds us of the Torch's sense of justice and selflessness. Despite his superpowers, he chooses to serve in law enforcement, even in the face of corruption and danger. The plot cleverly incorporates real-life issues, like political corruption and insurance fraud, into this superhero narrative, highlighting the versatility and relevance of comic book stories. Another fun fact, this comic is actually the first to suggest a shared universe between characters. The next comic is titled The Angel, Master of Men. It was written by Paul Gustafson and Ray Gill, and illustrated by Paul Gustafson and Joe Simon. The Angel is back at it, swooping down to save young Betty Martin from two thugs who are trying to throw her out of a moving car. As the goons attempt their escape, they force our hero and Betty off the side of the road, down a steep cliff into a river below. But we're talking about the Angel here. He survives the fall and hauls Betty back up to safety. The thugs are looking for their bodies, but instead find a surprise. The Angel manages to put one of them in the trunk and ties the other to the front of the car. With the threat of a high-speed demise, our hero extracts the truth. Betty's Aunt Emma has been plotting to murder Betty and subsequently poison her father, all to claim the family's fortune. Talk about freaking family issues. There's a ticking clock as Betty reveals her father's dinner wine has been poisoned, and it's nearly supper time. They rush to Betty's family home, joined by the police, in a race against time. On arrival, the Angel shatters through the window in a dramatic entrance, preventing Henry Martin from drinking the lethal wine, and uncovers Aunt Emma's deadly scheme. But Aunt Emma doesn't go down without a fight. She attempts to flee, ignoring the Angel's warning about the police's shoot-to-kill orders. Sadly, it's too late, and Emma is gunned down by the officers. This story is a roller coaster of excitement and suspense, reminding us of the Angel's relentless pursuit of justice. But beyond that, it delves into themes of greed and betrayal within a family, making for a compelling narrative twist. The Angel's quick thinking and determination to protect the innocent are beautifully highlighted, reinforcing his status as a true guardian angel. The next comic is titled Rampage in New York. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. After a failed execution attempt by the Americans, a furious Namor returns to Atlantis. He seeks permission from the Holy One to go back and conquer New York City in retaliation. The Holy One offers Atlantis' entire military support, but Namor declines. This is personal for him. So, he takes off in a flying sub, heading straight for the Big Apple. Namor lands his sub in New York Harbor and decides to make an audacious move. He takes over the Statue of Liberty, claiming it as his castle for the new empire. When the local authorities respond, Namor laughs off their attempts to stop him, leading to a disastrous crash between an ocean liner and a riverboat. Confronted by officers armed with metal nets and tear gas at the docks, Namor easily breaks free and heads straight to the mayor's office. He dismisses the mayor's threats to call the National Guard and continues his onslaught, damaging both the L train and the top of the Empire State Building. As his rampage escalates, the police commissioner makes a desperate move. He sends Betty Dean, who has a complicated past with Namor, to try and reason with him. Betty manages to intercept Namor and warns him that the Human Torch has joined the police force. But Namor is unfazed. He challenges them to send the torch, diving back into the water, his hostility far from over. This story brilliantly highlights the destructive potential of Namor's wrath and his fearless, individualistic nature. His dismissal of the entire Atlantean military in favor of a solo mission underscores his personal vendetta against the Americans. Namor's actions, though destructive, also challenge us to think about the consequences of actions taken in hostility and the spiraling consequences of revenge. But what do you think? Is Namor justified in his actions, or has he crossed the line? I'm just full of fun facts. The Holy One's real name is Emperor Thakor. This name is not revealed in Submariner #1. Also, Atlanteans weren't illustrated with blue skin until Fantastic Four Annual #1. The next comic is titled The Framing of the Masked Raider. The author is unknown, but it was written by William Allison. So our story starts with Nat Parker and his son heading home, tired and wary of running into robbers, which, unfortunately, they do. But guess who comes to their rescue? It's the Masked Raider, cunningly disguised as a cowboy. He swoops in, sending the robbers fleeing, but not before Nat and his son are wounded. Our hero rushes into town for medical aid, noticing a Bar Y brand on one of the dead horses. A clue, maybe. However, instead of a hero's welcome, the sheriff tries to pin the shooting on the raider. Despite Nat's protest, our hero has to hightail it out of there. Later, as the Masked Raider, he pays Nat a visit and learns about the ongoing harassment by the crooks. They've been stealing Nat's cattle, horses, and even murdering his ranch hands. The freaking Wild West, right? After narrowly avoiding an assassination attempt, our hero investigates the Bar Y ranch, where he finds the robbers. But they overpower him and he ends up tied up. Luckily, his trusting horse Lightning chews through his bonds and they're back on the chase. The crooks are about to set fire to Nat's house, but with Nat's help, the Masked Raider manages to gun them down. And here's the big reveal. Their leader is none other than the sheriff himself. It turns out the sheriff was forcing Nat off his land because of its mineral wealth. With the sheriff exposed, our hero leaves him in the hands of Nat Parker. This story beautifully showcases the unpredictability of the Old West and the underhanded tactics some use to gain wealth and power. It also emphasizes the Masked Raider's unwavering commitment to justice, despite the dangerous and false accusations he faces. His ability to read situations, as shown by his attention to the horse's brand, is a testament to his detective skills. But what's your take on the story? What do you think about the sheriff's double cross and the Masked Raider's clever escape? The next comic is titled The Felons and the Flood. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Steve Dahlman. When the Ohio River overflows, causing catastrophic floods, all eyes turn toward Professor Zog, with desperate pleas for Electro's assistance. Responding to this SOS, Zog dispatches 2 of his operatives and Electro to join the rescue mission. And, of course, Electro, being the unsung hero he is, pulls off some amazing feats to save numerous flood victims. Meanwhile, deep in the submerged regions, our villains, led by Boss Sarpo, see this disaster as an opportunity. They plan to loot and pillage the devastated towns, while the police are overwhelmed by the floods. Despite the brave attempts of stranded store owners to defend their properties, Sarpo's gang overpowers them with superior firepower. But our heroes don't let this go unnoticed. Electro is promptly dispatched to halt the chaos. While Sarpo's henchmen are easily round up, Sarpo himself eludes capture, escaping with his ill-gotten gains in a speedboat. Yet Electro, unstoppable as always, tracks him down to the other end of the flooded region, where Sarpo and an unscrumptious zookeeper are unloading their spoils. In a desperate attempt to stall Electro, the zookeeper unleashes 2 elephants, but even this fails to deter our metal hero, who successfully apprehends both Sarpo and the zookeeper. Behind bars, Sarpo swears to take revenge by targeting Professor Zog, the creator of Electro. This story really underscores the dualistic nature of humanity in the face of disaster. While some rise to the occasion and help, others exploit the situation for personal gain. It also highlights Electro's heroism and versatility, demonstrating that technology, when harnessed correctly, can be a force for good. The next comic is titled Kidnapped by the Duke. It was written by Stockbridge Winslow and illustrated by Erwin Hassan. After disembarking a subway train, the Ferret and Nosy encounter a woman who trips and supposedly injures her ankle. Our vigilant detective offers his assistance and helps her into a cab, but surprise, surprise, this act of chivalry is a trap. A goon named Duke ambushes the Ferret, knocking him out cold and whisking him off to a secluded estate. Awakening in a locked room, the Ferret finds himself in the company of Cynthia Brandt, the heiress of a candy store empire, who's being held hostage. The Ferret shares that her father has already paid the ransom, leading to them both questioning why she hasn't been set free. Duke steps in, demanding the Ferret sign a check for a whopping $50,000. Defiant, the Ferret refuses, resulting in a beating. Duke, not satisfied, offers his men to extract the signature forcibly and then get rid of both him and Cynthia. Judgment's henchmen resort to the Chinese water torture, tying the Ferret to a chair. However, they hadn't accounted for Nosy, who sneaks in to gnaw through the ropes, binding his hands. With the element of surprise, the Ferret quickly subdues the crooks and uncovers that the woman from earlier was actually a man in disguise. With the baddies trussed up, he calls in the police to round them up. Now, that was a plot filled with deceit and thrilling action. The story underlines the old saying, appearances can be deceiving. It's a stark reminder that even in the world of superheroes, things aren't always as they seem. But what really stands out is the bond between Ferret and Nosy. It goes to show that even the smallest companion can turn the tide in the direst of situations. Another fun fact, this is Nosy's last Golden Age appearance. The next comic is titled The Deadly Scheme of. The author is unknown, but it was illustrated by Ben Thompson. Our story unfolds as Ka-Zar gets intrigued by a plane landing on the river edge of his turf in the Belgian Congo. Suspicious of the men inside, Ka-Zar decides to play the observer, gauging if they're friends or foes. Emerging from the plane are Professor Rice, his daughter Mara, and their pilot, with a month's worth of supplies for their quest to hunt rare plants. But oh, the plot thickens as always. Their pilot is none other than the wanted criminal Red Skeleton. When Red tries to woo Mara, it escalates into a clash where Red unveils his true identity, pressuring the professor to sign a contract. This contract could potentially cost him a staggering $100,000, and even worse, his daughter's hand in marriage. While Red's nefarious plan is unfolding, Ka-Zar seeks help from his trusted ally Zar. They hurry back to the camp, arriving just as Professor Rice lunges at Red and gets fatally shot. A terrified Mara flees into the jungle with Red hot on her heels. Ka-Zar sends Zar after Mara while he investigates the plane. He stumbles upon a lighter and unintentionally sets ablaze some oil rags, resulting in a fiery explosion. The ensuing flames draw Red and Mara back to the site. Blaming Mara for the destruction of their escape route, Red is about to kill her when our hero Ka-Zar intervenes. Red tries to shoot Ka-Zar but misses, and Ka-Zar takes him down. Despite Mara expressing a desire to stay with Ka-Zar in the jungle, he insists that it's too perilous. However, when Traja, the elephant, alerts Ka-Zar of a nearby caravan, he places Mara on Traja's back, setting off to the caravan even as Mara continues to persuade him to let her stay. This story beautifully highlights Ka-Zar's innate protective instinct, while also emphasizing the treacherous and unpredictable nature of the jungle. It serves as a reminder that even in seemingly tranquil settings, danger can lurk in unexpected places. Moreover, Ka-Zar's character shines through as not just a fierce warrior, but also a compassionate protector who values the safety of others over their desires. These next 3 comics are in the Marvel Mystery Comics number 8. They were all released in April 1940. The next comic is titled The Human Torch and the Submariner Meet. It was written and illustrated by Bill Everett. This continues our journey with the Submariner and his reckless rampage in New York City. Picking up from where we left off, the Submariner remains unfazed by warnings that the Human Torch, fiery hero, is on his trail. Unleashing more havoc from his headquarters at the Statue of Liberty, Submariner brazenly snatches a depth charge from a naval ship and detonates it above the Houston Tunnel. Water gushes in, causing mayhem. But the Submariner's rampage isn't over yet. He storms over to the Brooklyn Zoo. After shooting down an airplane, he frees the captive animals, turning the city into a wild frenzy. Amidst the chaos, rampaging elephants endanger a helpless baby's life. But in a surprising twist, our water-based anti-hero steps in, rescuing the child and ensuring its safe delivery to a nearby hospital. Emboldened, the Submariner charges to his next target, the George Washington Bridge, leaving a trail of destruction. But his reckless spree is finally intercepted by the Human Torch. The blazing hero's flaming powers prove too hot to handle for the Submariner, forcing him to take a dive into the water below. But even as he swims away, he warns the Torch, vowing to return. This comic offers a fascinating view into the complexity of the Submariner's character. Despite his rampages, we see a glimpse of humanity when he rescues the abandoned baby. This storyline presents a stark contrast between destructive rage and unexpected compassion, setting up an engaging dynamic. Also, the clash between the Submariner and the Human Torch brilliantly showcases the balance of power between fire and water, 2 primal forces of nature, further highlighting the rich symbolism present in these narratives. And fun fact, this first meeting is revisited later in Marvel's number 1. The next comic is titled The Search for Submariner. It was written and illustrated by Carl Burgos. This is basically the last story, but in the Human Torch's POV. Tasked with hunting down the Submariner, the Human Torch scans every corner of the city, but to no avail. Upon his return to headquarters, his commanding officer is fuming, frustrated with the Torch's inability to apprehend the aquatic adversary. Just then, reports flood in of the Submariner's latest onslaught, an elevated train left in ruins. Alas, the Torch is too late to stop him, but manages to repair the damage inflicted by the rampaging Submariner. But duty calls again, this time from Betty Dean. Betty urges the Torch to see the good in Namor, insisting that he's not pure evil. The Torch, however, is resolute, spurred into action by radio reports of the Submariner's audacious attack on the iconic Empire State Building. Again, the Torch arrives post-destruction, his heroic pursuit punctuated by pauses to assist those imperiled by the Submariner's onslaught. The pattern repeats at the Brooklyn Zoo, where the Torch must delay his chase to corral the released animals. But finally, on the George Washington Bridge, the showdown we've all been waiting for transpires. Overpowered by the Torch's flame abilities, the Submariner retreats, but not before promising a return and a fiery face-off with the Human Torch. What stands out here is the Torch's tireless commitment to safeguarding the city, often at the cost of his primary mission. It is a testament to the essence of being a superhero. Protecting the innocent always takes precedence. Furthermore, Betty's attempt to humanize the Submariner adds a layer of complexity to his character, challenging the often binary portrayal of heroes and villains in the superhero genre. The 100th comic in this series is titled The Captive in the Cabin. It was written by Ray Gill and Paul Gustafson and illustrated by Paul Gustafson. Just when you think it's a regular day, our ever-vigilant hero, the Angel, springs into action to rescue a kidnapped girl held for ransom. Despite the element's prize in his favor, he is outnumbered, subdued, and tied up, only to find himself captive next to the very person he came to save. The mystery thickens when the Angel realizes that the girl's father is not wealthy. Why kidnap a losing businessman's daughter? He doesn't have to wonder there for long. Eavesdropping on the gang leader's conversation, he learns about a twisted plot involving the Meltmore Steel Company. The ransom is not about money, it's a ploy to pressure the girl's father into selling his controlling stock of the company. Talk about a corporate takeover gone dark. With newfound determination, the Angel manages to free himself and the captive girl. An epic fight ensues with the crooks, but with a surprise ally in the kidnapped girl, the Angel triumphs over his adversaries. Just as he's about to hand the girl over to the authorities, she fakes a fainting spell, giving her an excuse to be swept up into the Angel's arms and carried away. This story highlights how comic book stories can venture into complex narratives that mirror real-world issues, like corporate greed and manipulation. It also offers a twist in the damsel in distress trope, with the kidnapped girl actively aiding in her rescue, suggesting a shift in female character roles within the genre. And that, my friends, wraps up another deep dive into the comic universe. It's been quite an adventure unraveling these stories with you in this 5th episode. From plot twists to character developments, every comic we explore just adds another layer to our understanding and love for these narratives. Remember, if you enjoyed today's episode, please give this video a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear which part of today's breakdown was your favorite, or any comics you're excited to see featured in future episodes. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to get notified for the next episode. Until next time, stay curious, keep reading, and remember, every page turn is a new adventure waiting to unfold. Catch you all in the next one.